Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the third round of the Absolute Sim Racing GT1 World Sprint Series here at Imola. My name is Daniel Handover, and joining me in the commentary box for the very first time is Mr. Craig King. Craig, how are you doing, sir?
Nice to be back doing the GT1s. Used to do the GT Challenge broadcast, and it's fantastic to see these old machines, these fantastic loud machines in the Corvettes and the Aston Martins on the track. And what a track as well. It is Imola. It's such a historic track, an iconic track as well. And it's returned to the fold, the mainstream fold in motorsport thanks to Formula One, but it's been a staple in GT series all for the last decade. So really looking forward to some racing around here tonight.
Absolutely, we are indeed. Unfortunately, again, not quite the grid size that we were hoping for. However, we did see last week, though, at Silverstone, we did see some very, very good racing. So I'm hoping that this will be of a similar nature we are currently underway in qualifying with around about 10.5 minutes to go. So, obviously, Craig, this is our first commentary gig together. We are going to be doing a lot more commentary together moving forward. So, I mean, to be fair, you just touched on it then. GT1s, these are sort of your cars. I mean, when did you first start driving them? When did you first start really getting involved within the GT1s? Since they've been out, or a little bit later after that?
Yeah, it's been a little bit later than that. I remember getting into iRacing. I remember, I think a couple of years ago, Jimmy Broadbent did his 24 or 23 hours as older, and they used GT1s. And back then, it just felt really nice to see. And it was one of those cars that it felt like a niche, and it is a little bit of a niche, but iRacing continued to keep it going with the new damage model and helping out with tires and the fantastic help by iRacing and the community who drive these cars. And it's fantastic. And I had the opportunity when the series was getting a revitalization to take part in doing the broadcast for the official series on a Sunday night. And the 30-minute races with these GT1s and the Ford GT2s, just really nice, especially the tracks and the racing. I mean, we're not just talking random people as well. We were getting current GP2 driver in Luis Delatraz. We were getting recent leader of Formula E, Eduardo Mortara. So we were getting some like big names coming into this just to race, and it was fantastic to see. Not been able to do that recently. It's been a few months since I've been able to dabble into the GT1s, but it's just a fantastic car. Just the idea that you've got a semi-sequential. You have to give it a little bit of a blitz sometimes. You don't have the brakes like you do nowadays. There is a little bit, the ABS is a little bit older. You've just got to take your time. It's just a really nice car to drive, and I remember doing some driving with this and with the community. It was great fun, and I haven't had a chance to get going with the GT1s this season. I've been a little bit busy, but they're just fantastic to drive.
Do you know what? I fully agree with you. We were lucky enough to actually take part in the Jimmy Broadbent 24 hours when he first did it with the GT1s and the TCR, and it was an interesting experience. I think it'd been like roughly the first time that I'd properly driven, the GT1s. I actually raced in the TCR, but we did a bit of testing in the GT1s. I just loved this thing. It's just, there's something so, as you say, there's just something so unique about it. It's a lot more manual. You have to drive it a lot more aggressively, I think is the proper word to be using. Aggressively with also some finesse as well. It's a very, very interesting driving style. You have to sort of like tell it where to go, but at the same time listen to it just in case it wants to all of a sudden kick back at you. So fantastic cars. Again, it is a small grid, unfortunately. However, we are hoping that as these seasons progress, because we are wanting to do a few more seasons of this, we are going to be seeing some popularity pick up with these cars. It's a fantastic opportunity to really allow these cars to stretch their legs. In sort of, as we see Stephen Brumfield having a small little excursion going out of turn 3, and that has brought him back to the pit. It's just great the more cars we have on board, obviously the better it'll become, and will take a little bit of time, I'm sure, but we will get there at the moment. I mean, as well, Craig, obviously this is new for you in terms of drivers. I believe you were recognising a few names from the actual official series. What sort of names do you recognise?
Yeah, no, I was recognising not just from the official series, but elsewhere around around iRacing in my escapades around. Gilles Hubin for one of them as well, and Joris Phelan, who unfortunately hasn't set a time yet at the moment. They're just the drivers that are there. They have been around. The GT Challenge is quite I wouldn't say saturated, but it's quite a French domination. So when you get to see some of these other drivers, some of them sometimes may be in second split, so you don't get to see them in the top, and sometimes they just jump in. So you do get to see some of these. I am quite interested at the number of Corvettes compared to Aston Martins. The Corvettes usually, by some people, have been described as probably the more challenging car to drive out of the two. I remember a friend of mine, I tried to get him into GT1s, and he test drove a Corvette around Spa, and he was saying he could not drive it, but he drove the Aston Martin and it felt like a more traditional car. And you'll see that these Corvettes, they are going to have a lot of power, so expect Gilles Hubin, who, I mean, he's a great driver in his own respect. That's why he's a 4.8k driver on iRacing. He will do well in these Corvettes, and I say that currently he's only doing a 138, 104 as I'm saying that, so he's got a little bit more time to go. He's got 9 minutes. He's got 6 minutes left in the session, but that's the type of drivers out there. So the Corvette, expect to see him down into the run-in at Tamburello, the first corner. Expect to see that Corvette just get a little bit more top-end speed when it comes in.
Yeah, as you say, I was actually surprised when we were looking at the sign-ups. I was quite surprised at how many Corvettes were there as well. Because inherently, obviously, yeah, we did have that sort of like... I initially thought it was just going to be the Aston Martin that would just be a complete dominant force, but it's nice to see the Corvette. I mean, they sound absolutely fantastic. I'm much more of a V12 man. I do prefer that screaming sort of V12, really high up the rev range. But there's something about the V8 in this car. Again, it's old school to the point where it's old school but modern at the same time. If you think that, I mean, these cars were racing back in, you know, the late noughties, early 10s. And when you look at them, that's getting on for, like I said, 12 years, you know, 10, 11, 12 years old. And surprisingly, technology has moved so far in that time that it's amazing how these cars, while they still do feel modern, at the same time, they're not in a way. It's a very, very weird thing to sort of describe.
It's like you look at these times, a 137 is the pole, you got some 138s as well. And you think, you know, that's far, but then you realize, I'm trying to rack my brains, that's probably a second slower than what you'd expect in a modern day GTE, which the GTE kind of took over what the GT1 was. All right, a little bit slower, but that just is to go show you technology and downforce and all that. And of course, nowadays they are sequential brakes, sequential gear. There is no need to have any little bit of blips. So it's just one of those things. So I reckon if you put a GT1 against a GTE, the GT1 would struggle. Which is, you know, it just goes to show the age. But it's just great that we have these. And of course, as I was saying earlier, the new damage model, it does add a new element into this racing, because we're talking wheels could come off. We're talking the bumper, which could cause a lot of damage. But even the rear wing, I've seen the rear wing come off. So you've got to be careful when you factor in the new damage model with these cars. But I love the new damage model, especially on these cars. And it's a great car that iRacing is used to just tweak out anything they need to do with the damage model. If they find an issue, usually the GT1s are the ones they go to first.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the older cars makes things a little easier. So, no, absolutely, completely agree. One thing I have noticed, though, have a look at this. Now, within 3 minutes left to go, look at Stephen Brumfield, Robin Bales, and Fabian Cervelli. Now, Brumfield and Bales, they're exactly the same times, down to the thousandths. Like, I know we've only got, like I said, we haven't got the grid that we were wanting, but at the same time, though, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a boring race by any stretch of the imagination, because we have two drivers in exactly the same time, and then Fabian Cervelli just behind, only 6 thousandths of 6 thousandths of a second behind. It's nothing. If you were to put that in terms of a distance, 6 thousandths of a second is minuscule. So again, how close that it is becoming here with 2.5 minutes left to go is absolutely fantastic. Although we do have, like I said, a little bit of time left, I wonder if Brumfield or Bales can improve on their times and jump one or another. Mattia Feligni, though, 4 tenths up the road. Man is on an absolute mission at the moment. And
you're going to have a mission, though. Sorry, look at that. We were just saying about Brumfield. He's just done it. He's the only car out of those three on track, and he's just thrown a 37.409. He's managed to break that tie. Oh, almost 2 tenths faster than what he set with Robin Bales. And you've got to think, Bales and Cervelli, neither of them are out there at the moment, and they're not going to get enough time to, well, they will get enough time to do one more lap if they want, but they're complacent. They're complacent, it looks like. They're going to be staying in.
Indeed, as you say, yeah, Robin Bales, he is staying in the pits. So is Fabian Cervelli. I'm sure that both Robin and Fabian, they do have some time in the bag. I think Stephen Brumfield is wanting to boast a little bit more if he can pull a bit more time. And they pull a bit more time away from Robin Bales and a bit further up to Mattia Feligni. We saw a very good performance from him from the first round where he did take the win after an incredible defensive drive. I just wonder if that's going to be the same thing. He's really going to have to work very, very hard indeed. Currently running on your screen now is Robert Isler in the C6R GT1 from Germany. 140.702 is Robert's fastest lap at the moment, and in a very striking Golf-esque livery. And do you know what? On the Corvette, it's grown on me actually. I think it works.
It's got the space, the Corvette. It's a classic American muscle car. We call it the shouty boy because it's so loud at the back, like you were saying, with the loud engine. And yeah, I like this. I'm one of these guys that doesn't like liveries that shouldn't be on a car if they never run that car. So like I don't like seeing a Martini on a car that never had a Martini sponsor or a Golf. But this is growing on me. I've got to be honest. This is growing on me, and I could imagine seeing this in the 2000s, a Golf livery. But he just had a little bit of a spin out of a little bit of a slide out of Aqua Minerale. Just want to see. Look at the curves they take coming out of Variante Alta. He does manage to get a lot of time. Really curious to see what he does, because the back is sliding a little bit for Robert around here. He's coming down. He's going to be looking about the 150 mark from the braking. Just after the 150, he breaks down for Ravazza 1. Just heel that inside. Don't want to go too far onto the grass. You don't get a slowdown here. The inside line, if you cut the inside, you will get an off track and a slowdown, but he's coming into the pits. He's not happy with that. He did not have a good time. I think a lot of those slides did hold him up. So he will stick with that 147.01. Unfortunately, Josh Phelan has some computer issues, will not be joining us tonight. So it's an 8-car grid at the moment.
Indeed, an 8-car grid, although it's very, very close at the front. Still, I mean, you think from the top 5 separated by 0.6 of a second, I mean, realistically, there's, again, 0.6 of a second seems like a bit of a lengthy time. With those 45 minutes, obviously 45 minutes with a pit stop as well. It's a mandatory pit stop because these cars both have, both the Corvette and the Aston have a 60% fuel rate, a 60% fuel capacity limit. So they will have to come into pit. Stephen Brumfield very wide on, I believe that is Variante Alta, I believe. Correct me if I am wrong.
No, you're right.
I am right. There we go. Did go a little bit wide though, so he may have caught off track.
No, he broke way too late. I was watching that and thinking that's an aggressive place to break, and it was right by the 100. And I think he just got it wrong, trying to just find that extra bit. But the later you break on this, the quicker you've got to shift down those gears. And like I said, there's a little bit of blipping you have to do. I think that just caught him out there. Like I said, in a GTE, breaking at the 100 board, no problem. Don't think you can do it in a GT1. So he was trying to find some more time. I don't think he was going to find that 3/10 he needed to beat Matteo there. But great time at the top there from Matteo.
Absolutely, a 137.180 even. So a very good time, as you say. But Brumfield, though, he is there or thereabouts. Let's not count him out. 26 seconds left to go. Unfortunately, that is it, actually. No other cars are going to cross the line. So that is it for this particular qualifying session for round 3. Over halfway through the series. It's only a 4-round series. It's a short little sprint series, to be fair. We wanted to make sure that while we did have some racing, we could then get some people on board as well and actually get through the first season to learn from it as well. I think that's the key thing, isn't it, Craig? It's us getting to a point where we can then learn from it and actually then start moving forward. Move forward and then able to build on it season per season.
You've got to walk before you can run, and mistakes will happen, and it's great to just got to try and you don't find the winning combination, you find the winning combination the second time or the third time. So if you don't learn from your mistakes, then you're doing something wrong. So everything's going swimmingly, and to be fair, GT1s is a nice little thing, a nice little niche, a nice little league. So you've just got to think of it like that it's very nice to see these cars. And like I said, the GT1 community, it's a small community, but it is a very unified community, and you've got to shout out for them. I must admit, one of the things that I love about this GT1 community is they basically make a set and they share the set. Everybody almost uses the same setup that is provided by one of the well-known people in the community, Dan Muller, who races on many other things, but makes a baseline plus set for these GT1s, and some of the drivers use them. And to be fair, Dan's not going to make you something that's not going to be competitive, and you do get the competitive. And some of these drivers will probably have seen some of that as well and just been like, yeah, I could use something like this. There has been some old Imola sets, so who knows? We may have seen some old Imola. We may have seen some of those sets, or some of these drivers finding out what the old cars need to make them go faster.
Absolutely, may very well do, as you say. But let us run you through the grid for round 3. Mattia Foligny taking pole position with that 137.180. Stephen Brumfield in second position, a couple of tenths behind. Robin Bales rounds out your third place with Fabian Savelli in P4. Gilles Hubin P5 with Jacob Money in P6, Gilbert Shu in 7th, and Robert Isler in P8. Joris Thielen, unfortunately, unable to race. Same for David Michael Nichols, who was also having some troubling issues with his equipment. Not ideal, and something that seems to be plaguing people as does Imola, but hopefully we are going to be seeing the back out for the final round next week. But that is your grid. Let's get ready and all set for the warm-up. The warm-up lap, which should be coming to you in but a few moments' time. We are going to see, I believe everyone is out on track. They are indeed. So, let us jump onto grid. And there they go for the warm-up lap. It is a full-pace warm-up. Actually, it's not a full-pace warm-up. No, and do you know what? They've already gone. I believe it is green for go. And look at that. I tell you what, Robin Bales is actually going to try and get up the inside straight away of Stephen Brumfield. I don't know what's going to happen as they go through. It's going to be very, very close indeed. But Robin Bales is alongside Stephen Brumfield. Is he going to be able to do it? He might very well do a bit of a lock-up there as well. Manages to get it. What a stellar move there for Robin Bales. Up the inside, capitalising on that position. Nice and early, though. But this had allowed Mattia Feligni to just drive all. He's just caught a bit of a gap already, which isn't going to be helping the issue for Robin Bales. You think Robin Bales and then Stephen Brumfield. Brumfield was closer to Feligni in qualifying, and he's starting to pressure Bales already. It's still very close behind as well with Fabian Savelli and Gilles Hubin. Let's not count those guys out by any stretch of the imagination. But at the moment, though, Robin Bales is still being hassled very, very heavily by Brumfield. And what it's allowing constantly, and we can see already, the gap is around 9/10 of a second between Feligni and Bales.
Yeah, already, and that battle is just brewing on, and you can see that Bales, a lot of sliding. I see a lot of sliding on the braking and just moving. The car's just twitching a little bit, and it's holding up Brumfield. If he wants to get through, he's unable to because the car, it's just he's a little bit undecisive of what this car's going to do in front of him, and just that, and when you come through Variante Alta, you have to just give the respect, and unfortunately, it's not worked for him here. He's had to give that respect, and he's losing time to Brumfield at the moment. The gap is going to be 0.3 of a second. I don't think, unless he gets a good run, he will have a run down into the first corner out of here. But they come around Rivaz 2. The gap is 0.3 of a second between Bales and Brumfield. Down to 0.2. He may have a run here. He may be able to do the exact same thing that Robin did to him at the start of this race.
He may very well do as we're going through. Rails goes on the defensive. Oh, I tell you what, that's two cars becoming one there. Bales versus Brumfield, what's it going to be? And then just behind there, that is Fabian Savelli and Gilles Hubin that are having a bit of a battle as well. Let's not count those guys out. Robin Bales still manages to stay ahead for the moment over Brumfield. And I tell you what, Gilles Hubin is really trying to make moves. He has got past Fabian Savelli. So a good move there that we just saw out of your, just out of the corner shot as we were focusing on Bales and Brumfield. But at the moment, look how much Brumfield is pressuring the back of that Aston Martin. He's really, well, he's just pressuring so much, trying to force Robin Bales into a mistake. Nothing at the moment. I've noticed, though, Feligni, 1.4 seconds is now the gap between the two. But I tell you, I just can't get over. Look how close it is. So Gilles Hubin is really starting to pull away from Savelli already. But the two cars that are still pretty much won, as we have seen all the way from the start of this race, I know it's only been 2.5 minutes, but I wonder if it's going to be like this for the entirety, is Brumfield and Bales. But Gilles Hubin is catching up, I think, to be fair. I don't know about yourself and what your thoughts are on that, Craig, but it looks like...
Oh,
slow down.
The commentator's curse. Yeah, I think the commentator's curse just got him. He just had a little bit went off there at Variante Alta, and that does give him a slowdown. I don't know if that's actually from there or from Aqua Minerale, but he's lost a couple of places. And Savelli and Money go forward, but at the front of, well, I say the front of the field, down in P2 and P3, out that middle, Bales and Brumfield. It's going to be another battle between these two, and the pace is there for Brumfield, but he has shown the outside. And Bales in that 42 has already gone, I'm going to take this. But you can just see Hubin is in the pits. Not sure what's happened there. We'll see that in a minute. But side by side, Brumfield does have it. He'll have to go around the outside at Tamburello. It's not going to work. He's going to try the cutback. Look at the curves that Bales is hitting. But no, Brumfield just took too much time to hit that apex and loses a lot of time. Bales, though, with that defense right away when he realized he was in danger.
I think they have to, really, don't they? To be fair, you know, Bales is going to have to defend nice and aggressively. Because the pace that you can carry down, while these cars don't have all that much aero, I tell you what, they are still they're still really, really susceptible to, if you can get behind and you can pull that toe, it's amazing how quickly you can catch up. At the moment, though, look at Stephen Brumfield, though. He's right onto the back already of Robin Bales. Oh, a bit of a touch. Oh, just about managed. That was a bit of a love tap there. I tell you what, if Robin Bales didn't know that Brumfield wanted to get by, he certainly does now. That was a bit of a tap. Didn't really cause any damage, I'm sure. But I tell you what, it's really putting... Robin Bell's got a bit of a slow exit now going through the mid part. I can't remember what the corner name for the life of me, but they're going to go side by side down. Robin Bell's still managing to keep ahead, but look at now, Fabian Savelli. He's caught up to the back of this group now as well. So this this battle of the duos is now becoming a battle with 3 people. I wonder if Robin's got some damage or something, because his car does not look that quick in a straight line.
He does. If you just see, there is a small push at the bottom of that bumper, and it's actually pushed the splitter a little bit, and that is the new damage model showing its worth. It's only a little tap, you think. Yeah, but that little tap has just caused an issue, and Bales, unfortunately, has to just work out. I'm not sure about Brumfield when it comes to damage. Nothing there, but they're going to go side by side again. And I think Brumfield realizes, but is he going to try? No, he tries again to try that little sling in, and it's not working. The more these two fight, the more Savelli comes in, the further Feligny goes ahead. He went 137.8 last lap. He went purple while these guys are battling in the 40s. These are the slowest cars out there because they are so nip and tuck. And that little push damage there that Bales has got isn't going to affect him as much, but he is going to feel it when it comes to doing these corners. So he's going to come into Piratella right now. And again, is he going to put his car in the middle? That's some good. He's been doing some good defense, putting that car on the inside to make sure he makes the right move. Then he puts the car in the middle of the track so there's nowhere to go. But right now, he can't do it. But Brumfield, Acqua Minerale is not the corner you want to try and send it. And Stephen realized that's not what I want to do. And Savelli, he's just waiting to clean up. And that's a slowdown for Brumfield. Oh, I did not realize he had a slowdown.
Slowdown for Brumfield, I see. So that's not going to help his cause. This is what happened to Gilles Hubin just a couple of laps ago. So I wonder what goes on here. Is it just a small little bit of rotation? No, we can't see anything yet. We are going to go back to your racing in a second. But yeah, at the moment, it doesn't seem to be like much has happened there with Gilles Hubin. Does run over the curb ever so slightly. That may very well be a slowdown. Yeah, nothing that we can really see at the moment, so I'm not entirely sure what was going on there, but we are going to try and see if we can get some information for you later on. But look at that, Robin Bales has now managed to successfully pull away because of the slowdown that Brumfield had. But what it does mean, though, is Fabian Savelli is still very, very close to the back of Brumfield. If he can get pulled along by Brumfield, because ultimately, with the pace that we have seen from Stephen in the number 45, we are definitely going to see some very, very clean pace. And ultimately, and eventually, we can already see, look how much he's catching up already. It's only been about 4 or 5 corners. And Stephen Brumfield is already starting to catch up. But it is pulling Fabian Savelli along. So let's just keep an eye on that and see how it goes and see how it moves forward. Well, I think this is going to be a very, very interesting battle. Probably all the way and past the pit stops.
Yeah, and of course, that dirty air is holding. You just saw Brumfield just go a little bit wide there at Piratella, and that will be a little bit. And there's a spin! Bales has spun in Acqua Minerale too, and he has gone behind them. And all of a sudden, that looked to me like he just went a bit too high. Is he going to lose P5 to Jacob Money? He is. And Jacob Money's going to take that. Bales will go down to P5. I'll get myself corrected there. He's now going to find his way. He's 2.5 seconds behind Stephen Brumfield. But that mistake, and I'm pretty sure that was just a case of, did he clip the grass is what I'm thinking. Yeah, he clipped the grass. He clipped the grass. So unfortunately there for Bales, all that pace and that fantastic start, he's got to now work his way all the way around.
Absolutely. Let's just have a quick look at this. This is instant replay here of what happened. Just grabs the curb. So, I mean, to be fair, it was very, very touch and go. I mean, how close do you want it to be to actually getting on that curb? I mean, realistically, it was almost nothing on the grass, but straight away, side by side, Robin Bales all the way up, back past Jacob Money, straight away, has to take the defensive line. That's one move done and dusted. I wonder if he's obviously managing to maintain that position. He's managing to maintain and manage the damage very, very well indeed, because he already has made that move stick. And the person he's now got to catch up to, again, is up to Fabian Savelli. Bitter frustrating, I'm sure, that Robin Bales will be feeling through there. But put it behind you. Still 36 minutes left to go. See what can happen. Because anything can happen, as we have seen in these races previous.
Of course, now it'll be interesting to see what his true pace is, because he's been doing these 140s, but he's been having to defend. He put his cars in places that aren't optimal lines. So now he's got a little bit of clean air. 2 seconds up ahead of Savelli. He's got a little bit of time. No dirty air at the moment. Let's see what he can do. Because if he can catch up to Brumfield, the gap is 3.4. Be interesting to see. Brumfield did a 137.6. Savelli did a 138.2 on that last lap. And of course, Bells, he had a 41.3 because he had that spin. But this will be the first lap he gets on his own with no traffic around him. So I am going to be curious to see what he does. He's not really gaining at the moment. Maybe that little damage at the back. I can't think it would do that much damage, but you can just see the fins just a little bit just a little bit bent on the back there, such as the new damage. We may not be able to see it at a good angle with the cameras, but if you just have, when you get a closer look, you can see definitely a push in at the bottom of that splitter, and it does affect. But there you go, 138.1. All right, he's faster than Savelli, who did it with 138.2. But Brumfield just put a purple lap in, 137.5. Brumfield, now he's got clean air. He's pushing Mateo at the front.
Well, yeah, he took, so just going based off last laps, that was 0.4 of a second, 0.5 of a second even, that Brumfield caught on Mattia Feligny. So I wonder, 4.6 seconds is the gap. Yes, he has got that clean out, which is exactly what he wants. We'll have to keep an eye on the gaps, see how they progress and see how they come down. But ultimately, though, Mattia Feligny, it's not going to worry him too much at the moment, but he might have to. We may actually see, to be perfectly honest, we know that Feligny has got some good pace. So we may see now that this actually moves forward and he may have to respond to this lap now. I'm guessing, to be fair, and if I were Mattia Feligny at this sort of position, if I had that sort of gap, I'd be backing off. I'd be taking it about that 9/10. Now that he knows that Brumfield's just putting that fastest lap time, he's going to have to try and respond. Otherwise, if he doesn't, then Brumfield could very well be on to catching him up towards the end of this race. Although Brumfield has actually dropped back a little bit. What has happened there? Almost about 7/7 of a second. So that has cost him. I wonder if it was over the last chicane. If you hit it wrong, though, it's amazing how much time you lose. And that could very well be what has happened there. Like I said, the gap has now gone up to 5.2. And Savelli is now 1.2 seconds behind as opposed to 1.7. So not what he wanted. He has already actually pulled the time down. His last lap time, yeah, was a 138.2. So I reckon he hit the curb a little bit funny on one of those, on just one of the chicanes. It just cost him that little bit of time. Not too much. Robin Bells is just about catching ever so slightly, a couple of tenths a lap on Savelli as well. So keep an eye out for that lap time to see how that progresses moving forward as well. So there are battles not necessarily there at the moment. I mean, to be fair, again, the main battle that we're going to have is between these three cars here, Brumfield, Savelli and Bales. Feligny, possibly. It depends if Brumfield can catch up. If they can, then that may slow them up and allow the other guys to catch up as well. As we may have lost Craig for the moment.
Oh, it helps if I unmute my microphone.
Ah, there we go.
There we go. It helps if I unmute my microphone. I'm just saying they are going to be battling, and that will allow Mateo to just pull ahead. And just extend that lead. At the moment, he's not doing too bad, but the gap's gone down to 5.1. It's not changing between him and Brumfield. I was watching the Bell Savelli earlier, and coming out of Tosa, Savelli did make a mistake in Tosa, just going a little bit too wide on the apex, and it did hold up Bale. So the gap between these two is under half a second. And if a good run out of Ravaza 2 is on the cards for Robin, and it is, but half a second, you think in some cars that's good enough for a slipstream, but you get to your top speed really near the end of this straight, and it's just not going to work. So Bells will have to set himself up in a lap or two if he wants to, but he did a 137.945. He went green on his lap times. He is starting to find those laps, as we were saying, but now he's got that dirty air. Brumfield also, by the way, 37.5, beating Feligny with a 37.8, so you can see that gap closing at the front. But mind you, the consistency is there for Mateo, and there goes Savelli, just a quick blink out there, probably a networking issue. And look at the different lines there, Savelli. He just takes more of a flowing line. Bells wants to be that aggressive line, a little bit wider and straight in, but with the way Savelli takes that line with the speed, he's unable to and loses more time. So this is the battle that's going to be very interesting, because if Bells can get by quickly, he can make a run up to Stephen Brumfield in P2. But the longer he gets stuck behind here, the more time that Stephen gets to pull away. And he almost turns into Mattea, like when him and Robin were battling at the start of the race.
Yeah, it does. You're right. I think, to be fair, again, looking how you approach Robin Bells again, the car seems a little bit unhappy over that second curb. We did see Savelli did pull a fair bit of time there, actually, going forward. A good couple of tenths. Oh, I wonder. Oh, a bit of lift and coast did I hear from Robin Bells then you just heard. I wonder if that could be possibly what he's doing, trying to extend that gap, trying to go as late as he possibly can in the pit stop. Because bear in mind, again, that small little fuel saving will make a surprising amount of difference. So I wonder, as long as Bells can keep up that momentum and not pull too much time. Look at Stephen Brumfield there, 137.448 on the top right-hand side of your screen. Pulled another 3 tenths on Mattia Foligny. I don't know what Bells are doing there. Just that little bit of lift and coast. If he does save fuel, might very well get the undercut. Might very well get the overcut and be able to pit in just that little bit later than Savelli will. So a P3 could very well still be on the cards. You can just see Stephen Brumfield going out of shot just ahead of us. That 4.4 seconds is the gap between Brumfield and Foligny. That is coming down one way or another. Stephen Brumfield is damn sure that gap is going to be coming down. It might not come down till the very, very end of the race, even with the pit stops involved. They have to be cautious as well with how much fuel they take. If they take a bit too much fuel, Craig, then all of a sudden, well, they're going to be finding themselves losing 3, 4, even 5 seconds in the pit stop.
And all of a sudden, Stephen Brumfield is almost going to serve as a slowdown here. He just went very wide on the exit of Acqua Minerale here. Hasn't lost any time. Thankfully, he's losing a little bit of time out of Variante Alta on Foligny, but he is able to maintain his time there. I'm surprised he didn't get a slowdown for how wide he went around Acqua Minerale, but he's fine there. Robin Bells now is starting to catch. Apologies for the phone. Might have to just deal with that 2 seconds. No, I think someone will answer that. But yeah, Foligny is leading it away. Bells is having a great run here, but he's not able to do it, and the dirty air will catch him.
It will, absolutely. Very, very true. We've just got to try and be conscious of this as well, because that dirty air will make a difference. It will also make a difference to the front tyres as well. Bell's looking a bit more stable that time as he goes through. Bit of exit slide, but manages to maintain it nicely. The little bit of slide that you get in the GT1s is okay. It's manageable, I think, is the best way to describe it. And again, as Craig was alluding to earlier on, really just driving into the corner does Bells. A really, really quite aggressive line. You said it goes wide and then trails the car all the way in up until the apex point and then rolls into the throttle. It's a very, very aggressive way of driving them. But to be fair, it does give you more control. That's one thing you've really got to take into consideration. It does give you more control because you've got more time either on the brakes or the throttle. There is a little bit of coasting in the mid-corner, but that's okay because it manages to stabilize the car, and then as you bleed onto the throttle, just managing that. Savelli, though, with this setup that he's running, does have better traction by the looks. I wonder if he could very well be running a tad more wing, which is giving him... Oh, Robin Bells is carrying a lot of speed, maybe a bit too much. Just that little bit of lock-up. Bells is pushing absolutely flat out. And he's really, really trying. But at the moment, nothing at this stage here. Again, how close and how aggressive he's driving into the corners. Again, you can see much tighter of a line than Savelli. But that does cost him a fraction of time on the exit. And as we go through, coming now down the main straight, Brumfield though with another 137.380. Or 2 tenths quicker than still Foligny, because Foligny, his last lap was a 137.564. That was his quickest lap of the race. And then Stephen Brumfield gone, nope, no thank you, I'm just going to blitz past that. And he's taken another couple of tenths off. Fantastic stuff. And again, it's not going to happen within the next 5 minutes. It's not going to happen within the next 10 minutes. Probably not even the next 15. But it's going to happen probably in those last 5 minutes at the rate that Brumfield is catching, providing that he can keep that momentum and minimize mistakes.
Yeah, and also make sure he's not using too much fuel and going a bit too fast. It's kind of like the F1 with the catching distance and how many laps and the overtaking difficulty, it could be like that. Interesting to see as well that Cervelli and Bells both set their fastest lap last lap, even with Bells really pushing this car aggressively. A 1:37.828 and a 1:37.833 for Cervelli. Bells is just getting caught in this dirty air, but this is the closest he's been. And yes, that's early braking, maybe a little bit of lifting for Bells. He is thinking about maybe this overcut. They know it's going to be 28 laps. They've got a rough idea it's going to be 28 laps. There is no give or take there. They know it's going to be. So coming into Rivaz, the gap is 0.3 between these two. 0.3 of a second, gone out to 0.4. I've noticed Bells has not had a good exit the last couple of times for Rivaz. 0.3 of a second. He may have a good one this time. Going to go down to 0.2 right now. Can Cervelli hold this off? He's got to think about putting it into the middle of the track. He does not. And out comes Bells. He's going to just go to that side. And Cervelli's got no defense. And he can't really brake late for Tavarello. Bells will take back his P3. But in doing so, he's 5.5 seconds behind Bromfield. But Bromfield is on a charge. He was slower by a 10th last lap. A 1:47.494 versus the 1:47.447. Okay, if you round it up, it's a 10th. It's basically half a 10th. But he's matching, which in some respects is better than, not being, not matching. He's not losing time at the moment, which is good. But Mateo just went green with that 1:37.447. When you think that Bromfield's had times basically all in that vicinity for the last few laps, if you look at them, a 37.5, a 37.4, a 37.8, a 37.3, a 37.5. You get the idea that he's really is putting the consistency on right now, and it's only really a question, like you were saying. It's not going to be in the next 5 minutes, but 10, 15, 20. What about the final lap? What happened to the mistake in the pits? He even does look on the charge.
He does indeed, absolutely, and he's really not holding back. I'm interested to see, though, this is the first lap that Robin Bales has actually had in clean air for a while. So let's just have a quick, I'm interested to see. Obviously, he would have lost a little bit of time because of the overtake going through into the first chicane. So it's probably only going to be the next lap where it's really going to make a difference. That is, unless that Cervelli is going to try and come back. He may very well be close enough, although it's going to have to be Stephen Bromfield 1:37.282, half a second quicker than Feligny on that lap. The gap is now under 4 seconds. Cervelli, though, not making a move at the moment. What was Robin Bales' last lap time? It was a 1:38.2, but I said he did lose quite a sizable amount of time because of the overtake going through into the first chicane. So Bales is maintaining his position, I think, and while he will be pulling away from Cervelli, I don't think at this current pace that he's got, and the gap is now 6 seconds between himself and Bromfield. But again, look at that. Bromfield just has pulled the gap. It's now back over 4 seconds. So a small little mistake somewhere has cost him a bit of time. Over 20 minutes has gone. 22 minutes to be more precise. And we're coming into another 5 or 10 minutes. And then we're going to start to see the pit stops now come in. And I think it's going to be, again, Craig, as it pretty much always is, who is going to be the latest of the people to pit. Because if you are latest, and that's going to put you in good stead for the final few laps.
And I think that's going to go to Robin Bales, providing he has managed to save a bit of fuel. Not sure what you can save in terms of lap times around here, especially with a 60% fuel tank, but it could help Robin when it comes to crunch time. And even if it doesn't help him catch up to Bromfield, it will help him with Cervelli, because ideally he wants to be looking ahead, but he's having to look in that rearview mirror, and not really a very good rearview mirror in that Aston Martin. It's an old school mirror, but you've got the roll bar as well. You can only see a small amount in that mirror of what's behind you. And of course, they'll have their virtual mirrors, of course. They'll see a better time, but some people with their VR will just see a normal mirror. It's not what you want to see in a car like this. In fact, actually, a NASCAR, a stock car, is much better. But he doesn't want to be mirror watching right now. He needs to just keep focused. A 37.880. It's not his fastest lap. That's his first real lap in clean air. But again, that gap is half a second between himself and Cervelli. So he is having that issue. But like I said, you do not want to be mirror watching. That is the worst thing you can do at the moment. Just a quick look down at Jacob Money, of course. He is the fastest Corvette out there at the moment. Like I said, they are a challenge, especially on tight corners like this. So he is having his. It is a handful. It is a handful right here. And one of the things I was just talking about mirrors, the Corvette actually has a digital mirror, unlike the Aston, which I find really surprising out here. How the Americans got it right before Aston Martin. Not sure if I like that myself as a Britain fan of British motorsport, but motorcars. But you take what you can. But yeah, this Corvette, it does have that top speed, and I think we did see some moves early on from Jacob using the Corvette speed, but you've really got to get slow. You've really got to slam on the brakes on these things. Like I made that joke about, it's a muscle car, it can't turn. But these things, all the power in the back, and that's, the challenge is moving that power in these Corvettes.
Yeah, it is indeed. It's just a great little combination. And again, I really enjoy the fact that there's two different styles of car in the way that you drive them. They are complete polar opposites. Absolutely. There is nothing in between them, and there couldn't be any further from how they drive with each other. And I just think that's really good to be able to have them. I don't necessarily think, unless you start going into possibly, GT3s to a certain degree, GTEs possibly more so, but I'm just trying to think of, like, in terms of generation of cars, bar F1, but even then they sort of behave roughly the same, is what sort of cars now behave so differently between one another in terms of their driving style, and yet they're in the same class. I'm just sort of like trying to rack my brains, and I don't really think, especially in the last sort of maybe decade and a half, I don't really think there's all that much there that's really gives you that sort of completely different driving style. I suppose, like I said again, the mid-engined GTE cars compared to the front engines, yes, but all the traction control behaves roughly the same. Whereas these cars, they're just worlds apart.
Yeah, the GTs are the only cars really that you get a difference. Some people like that feel of having the engine in the front like a BMW, like myself. Other people like that engine in the back with the Porsche, and I find it a little bit floaty for my liking. And then you find that common ground, that is the Lamborghini. A mid-engine car. We are talking about this. I wanted just a quick point. Jacob Money, unfortunately, he's got one wing mirror just flapping around. Unfortunately, he's had a little bit of a showing somewhere. But the top four, surprisingly, are all in the pits. I thought Robin would go another lap, but he's seen everybody go in, and he's decided, no, I'm gonna go. I could have gone, but I decided not to. So everybody is in the pits. And I think, even here comes Jacob, and I wouldn't be surprised if Robin comes and joins them very shortly. Anybody going to get a jump here? The only person I can think would get a jump is Savelli. Away goes Mattea. Stephen will join him now. And in fact, that was early. I was trying to count that. That wasn't 4 seconds. That felt like 3 seconds. So what can be done? And yes, Robin Savelli's ahead of Robin. Robin's still in the pits. And what has gone wrong here?
I don't know, but it seems like he's just... I don't know if maybe possibly of what happened as well. He may have not adjusted his fuel correctly, possibly just waiting to repair some damage that could possibly have. There goes Jacob Money as well. So I'm not entirely sure what has happened here.
He has repaired damage. He has repaired damage. In fact, I can see that back bumper that I said that was a little bit pushed in is straight. So he has taken repairs, but that's not that long for repairs, and now he finally goes. The car did not go up on the jacks. There was not a tire change, but that is a lot of time. That is 40 seconds in the pits. No idea what's happened there.
Well, I tell you what, in these last 70 minutes, let's see what the time is. Now, the only thing I can think of is that Robin Bell's had a bit of a small excursion. Now, that diffuses damage that we saw.
Oh, I know what it is.
Is it
Sorry,
underfloor?
I know what it is. I think it's a speeding penalty.
Oh, speeding in the pit lane. Yes. That's a good shout, actually. That's a very good shout. Unfortunately, not what Robin Bells would have wanted by any stretch of the imagination, I'm sure, because, as you say, it wouldn't be worth repairing the amount of damage for 40 seconds. It'd be worth just keeping going.
He crossed the line at 70. I'm just trying to get this 75 kilometers an hour, and the pit lane is 60.
Oh dear, small little miscalculation there from Robin Bells, and that, unfortunately, has cost him all the way now down into P5. Well, he's now down into P5. He's got 16 seconds to make up. Now, the pace that he had, he's going to have to really, really push hard to catch up with Jacob Money, because the gap is 15.8 seconds. So he's really going to have to push. Actually, the gap isn't 15 points. Yes, the gap is, it's actually about 20 seconds is the gap. So, I mean, either way, damage probably has been repaired, luckily. So, which will give him a bit more pace. But he's going to have to really, really work to try and catch up now to the back of Jacob Money. And also, not just catch up, but then pass. So let's keep an eye out for that. But meanwhile, at the front, just having a look at this, Stephen Brumfield manages to take a second. Or nearest makes a difference around about a second, out of Feligny in the pit stop. And he's continuing that run. He's pulling more time every single lap. We can see it's only a couple of tenths. But, I mean, those tenths, they make a difference, don't they? And like I said, with those 15 minutes, 3.5 seconds, it's going to be tough. Let's not count this out by any stretch. It is going to be difficult. But I'm sure if Brumfield can just keep the composure, maintain the car's stability going through that midsection, because that's when it's most susceptible to rotating. Oh, this is going to be a very, very close finish.
To be quite tight there. A little bit of a bad time at Valiente Alto there. It just felt like he let the car just slide in a little bit on the exit. So he's got a little bit of time, but he still manages to pull a 10th this lap. And that doesn't sound a lot when you're doing 28. Actually, maybe 27 laps. We'll have to keep an eye on that ticker. Looking at 28 at the moment. May go down to 27. We'll wait and see. It all depends on the pace. But he did pull a 10th that last lap. And that extra 10th can help him. I just want to go quickly back. We were talking about Gilles Hubin. We wondered what happened to him. He had a speeding penalty after having the wrong setup on. So he came in early for a pit stop to check to add fuel, and then realised that he sped in the pit lane. And this pit lane is a very challenging pit lane just because of the high speed. Oh, that's a slide from Brumfield. I was just watching a little bit of a slide through toasted there from Brumfield. He loses a little bit of time. Yeah, loses a tenth or two on Feligny. But this pit lane, it is a very high speed pit lane, and there's nothing to stop you. But also, it's kind of like with Monza. It's kind of got a staple of what these Italian tracks are like, where the pit entry line is pretty early in that pit lane. So you want to take as much speed as you can, but you've just got to make sure the braking. And unfortunately, we've seen Robin have that issue, and also we know Gilles Hubin earlier on has had that issue.
Yeah, I know. It's. I don't really know. To be honest, I don't know how this is going to pan out. I mean, to be fair, everyone has made a pit stop, so no one's going to have to worry too much about getting any more speeding sort of penalties there at all. But yeah, just having another sort of quick look. I am looking forward as well. Robin Bells is catching up ever so slightly to Jacob Money, so the gap is now 14.2 seconds. So that is now a gap going through. Mattia Feligny again drops a little bit of time. Brumfield is catching up. Lap times were almost, actually, even with that small little mistake that we saw from Brumfield earlier in that lap, he was still 0.04 of a second quicker. So it is consistently quicker. It just seems to be there's just a couple of little mistakes that continually costs Brumfield every single lap. And that could very well be the stopping force, the driving force that doesn't allow Brumfield to catch up to Feligny. Again, we will have to see how it goes, but the gap is 3.4 seconds. Both drivers, though, pulling away from Savelli, who is doing pretty much, he's running his own race in P3. I don't really blame him for just sort of doing what he needs to do, really. There's no, in terms of sort of moving forward with pace, there is Robert Easley. He's just going for a, just going around to lap Isla there. But yeah, Fabian Savelli just running his own race, exactly what he needs to do. There's no point trying to push because you've got an 11.6 second gap to the car in front, and you've got a 23 second gap to the car behind, in which you are pulling away from. So I think a P3 here would never be a bad thing as well.
Yeah, bubble racing. It's one of those things, bubble racing as we call it. You don't have anybody in front of you, don't have anyone behind you, but you're just driving. And I mean, let's be brutally honest, where else better to drive than a GT1 around Imola? I mean, just any car around Imola is just nice to drive around. But yeah, taking the GT1 around here, he's just doing what he has to do. He's 20 seconds ahead of Money. He shouldn't be catching Brumfield, knock on wood, of course, in case we don't really want to see a mistake. Savelli just having his own way. And like I said, it is just one of these nice tracks you can do. Isla as well going on. Really curious as well about Isla, the top speed. Like we were talking about this Corvette. and he kicks up to 270 kilometers an hour. And when you think about Savelli barely gets to 270. He barely gets to 270. So you can just see that Corvette does have that straight line speed. But again, you know, if you've got the power, you've got to wield it. And unfortunately, it's just not been good for him. So back onto those leaders, by the way, they were almost identical. There was about 200ths separating them. A 37.587 for Mattia, and for Steven, it was a 37.618. So almost 200ths of a second there. But you can see, a little tweak there into Aqua Minerale from Brumfield. And all of a sudden, trying to catch up is costing Brumfield. And he's lost half a second this lap just trying to catch up. The mistakes are starting to show. I think he may have bitten off more than he can chew trying to catch up. And when you think a lot of this time he's trying to catch up, it's all because of getting in that battle at the start of the race with Robin Bells.
Yeah, again, these mistakes just creeping in. It is causing a little bit of, as you say, just causing a little bit of time loss just every lap or so. And it is costing. Like I said, ultimately, when you start to look at how much time it's cost, surprisingly, it probably is with all these little mistakes. Of where Mattia Feligni hasn't made all that many. If anything, I don't really think he's made any mistakes, to be perfectly honest. And the small little mistakes that Brumfield has made, it's probably equated to a good couple of seconds over the course of the entire race, even in this short 45 minutes, or even this short sort of 30 minutes that we've had at the moment. It's amazing how it does that up. But he can see him ahead, though. I think that's the driving force, is the fact that Brumfield can see him. I wonder if that's causing him just to push that a little bit too hard, purely because of the fact that he is able to see him actually in front. And it's only 4.2 seconds now. So it's not too long. Well, there's not too long left. Less than 10 minutes to go. And I don't know. It's just, while it's great to have a car ahead that you can push towards, it also can sometimes be a hindrance as well, I think.
Yeah, sometimes following a car is great. You can catch their line, see what they're doing. But, that's you following the car. But not when we're talking 4 seconds here. And they're trying to look on and he can see him. Of course, thankfully now he goes over the hill. He can just see that black car, that Wave Italy car, just in front. And, he's got to feel frustrated. But hang on, is that a mistake from Mattia? Hang on 1 second, because the gap has just shrunk to 2.7 seconds. Was that a mistake into Variante Alta from Mattia? I think it might have been. The gap is now 2.5. Hold on 1 second. With 8 minutes to go, we're about to start lap 23 of a possible 28, maybe 27. But we know there's 8 minutes 19 to go. That gap's gone down to 2.5. And there you go, 139.248 for Feligni compared to a 137.6. So it's game on once again.
It is indeed, absolutely, you're right. Brumfield goes a little bit wide. Look at the transition change. He's at the back out. Again, it's those small little mistakes that will cost him. I really want to be able to, for Brumfield to be able to catch up. This is going to be a fantastic race, but he needs to make sure he just keeps that composure, because he's got to pull, well, at least half a second every single lap now to even have a possibility to catch up. That was a very, very good hairpin as he goes through that time. Absolutely perfect in terms of position. And again, he just needs to make sure he doesn't get too heads up because there's a car in front, and because that small mistake from Feligni, you can see how early and aggressive he's being on the throttle. It's very, very limited what the tyres are able to produce. He's getting to that stage. A little bit of wiggle there. Manages to keep it all in check. Again, it's very push and shove, isn't it? I wonder if it's going to be... it's going to be close. I mean, realistically, unless there was another possible little mistake there from Feligni. Oh, that is going to be close. It might be an off-track. But it isn't going to be a slowdown. Brumfield is driving the absolute wheels off of this car.
Yeah, that's one of those corners where you don't realise there is a slowdown. You've got to get back onto the track pretty quickly instead of using that runoff. I mean, you've got some very lenient runoffs on Imola as it stands, but right there, that is one of the places you have to be careful. So they come across the line one more time. And what were the times of 137.723 for Matteo? It was a 37.767 for Steven. So he is slowly gaining. 2.4 now is the time. But with this much time left, gaining tenths isn't going to be enough. he needs to gain half a second at this rate. He needs to really, with the penultimate lap, just try and gain almost slipstream. Going a little bit wide at Villeneuve there will not help him. But he is finding time. As I say that, I'm trying to say, don't take the gravel. Clipping the gravel is going to slow you down. Oh, no, he's doing fine. He's doing absolutely fine. And the gap is coming down. And all of a sudden, what is going on with Feligny? Just the time has started to go down. This half a second I was talking about is almost happening. Gap is now 2.3. It went back to 2.4, 2.3. It is hovering there. Now it's 2.2. Something's not right with that Aston Martin right now in the lead.
Well, I've just noticed as well, actually, is it seems that Brumfield, I'm just having a quick look, and I was just having a look through there as well, and we're just riding on board still, I don't know why, but this lap, I see that Brumfield, he's actually calmed down a little bit. You can obviously hear what we're saying in the commentary box, and he's just backed off that sort of 5-10%, probably not even that, actually. But the car looks a bit more stable and a bit more controlled, and that is gaining him the time. It's not necessarily driving the car too hard. While these cars, like I said, they do need that little bit of sort of aggression versus... There's a balance. There's always a balance between how you drive these cars. And I think... It's better late than never with 5 minutes left to go. I think, touch wood, that Stephen Brumfield has just found that balance, because you definitely saw with that it was a lot more controlled, he was a lot more composed. And I think that fastest lap time also gives you that indication there of 37.261. 1.5 seconds is roughly the toe, might be a little bit less actually. It's nearly come down to back in the 1 second. I mean, I'll tell you what, he's going to leave it. They are just see on your timing tower there on the left hand side, 1.999. So it's under only just, but a fraction. But this will be helping. This will be driving Brumfield on. As long as he maintains composure, then it could very well be going into the last lap. I mean, even that 1.2, 1.3 seconds is all you really need to gain a surprising amount of toe going down into the first chicane. And again, look, it just looks like Brumfield's car is it's a lot more stable now. I'm not too sure what's happened. Just like I said, that small bit of driving style change, and it's really seemed to help.
A little bit maybe a brake bias change, just allowing the car a little bit of a slide out of Ariente Alta there, but it does not hinder him. And he just continues to push on, and all of a sudden, if you're Matteo, you've got to start thinking, you've got to start worrying, because that mistake took a comfortable 4-second lead, halved it, and then you see the guy behind you putting in fastest laps, and you can't meet him. You cannot match what he's doing. So we're going to cross the line again. And I expect the 37.4 or 37.3 from Stephen. What a guess, a 37.317. But what about Matteo? It's a 37.383. So even with those mistakes, even with the slides, hey, Stephen's doing it. He can see that car right now. Now, this is where I was saying earlier, you can watch the lines of the guy in front of you. You can pick up where he's going. You can find some speed. Little bit of a mistake out of Tosa, but into Villeneuve, and he is very aggressive at Villeneuve. But no, he's lost it. He overcooked it in the middle of Villeneuve there. You can just see he lost 2/10. And now he's going to find that rhythm. It's a rhythm track. Very flows. It flows very well, this track. And just that one mistake, especially in that section with Villeneuve into Tosa. Because I always say that you cannot make an overtake into Tosa because of what happens at Villeneuve. Well, because of what happened at Villeneuve, Brumfield loses time. But now, middle part of the track, Aqua Minerale, this is his favorite part. You can just see he's really worked well with this part of the track. Just gaining that time that he lost with that little mistake in the first sector. Continues to push. Matteo will be happy to see this, though, because he'll be pretty relieved. 2 minutes 15. Now, on my towers, this may be white flag. It's going to be nip and tuck. 1:37s are the times. They will have 30 seconds from where Feligny comes to Ravaz. I think we'll go around again. It's going to be close. Let's just see this quickly. I see 1:56 on the time, 55. Yeah, it's just going to be one more lap. There's going to be about 10 seconds in it. So that helps Stephen. The gap is 1.9, and that will help him a lot.
It absolutely will. I'm just having a quick look. Robin Bells is catching up quite considerably up to the back of Jacob Money. So let's see how that goes as we go further forward. The gap is, look at that, 1.8 seconds now between Feligny and Brumfield. 2 seconds is, 1.8. Look at that. That's 9/10 per lap. I mean, that is definitely something that's a tall order to say. It's down to 1.7 now. I wonder if Mattia Feligni's tyres have started to go off in these final closing stages. It's going to be, again, just so close. I'm actually really staggered at how much that time has come down. Credit to Brumfield, because he's really making a charge in these last final laps. It's 1.7 seconds, though. I mean, it's going to have to be an absolute blinder. It's now down to 1.6 for Brumfield. I'll tell you what, though. I really don't know. It's so close to call. I just can't call it at this moment in time, to be perfectly honest. Let's just have a quick look at what's happening, because here is Robin Bales. You just saw the thunderous V8 of Jacob Money come out. The gap is 2 seconds between Bales and Money. It's now 1.9. I'll tell you what, bear in mind, that gap was 20 seconds at the start when Robin had his unfortunate little pit stop. So P4 may still very well be on the cards for Robin Bales. He has got to make sure not only does he catch, but get past as well. That's the key thing there. He's got to make sure that he gets past within that time of 1.5 laps for these two drivers. Meanwhile, again at the front, Stephen Brumfield coming onto the line. He did lose a bit of time though, 1.6 seconds. It's gone up to, it was 1.4. And now we are on to the final lap here for round 3 of the GT1 World Sprint Series. And my goodness, how close is it going to be?
One mistake, that's all it could be. One mistake from either of these drivers could decide it, and that may have decided it there with Brumfield having a little bit of a lockup. He pushed too hard into Tamburello, and he's lost half a second from that one mistake, and now he's going to hope that Matteo may have a mistake, may have underfueled. I can't see it for the life of me, any underfueling, but you can just see, I don't think many drivers would have bet on this. I think they would have seen it was going to be 28 laps, even though there was a risk of 27. I think the pace, maybe that's what Matteo was trying to do, just hold off a little bit, maybe see if a fuel battle was in there, but the gap is still starting to come down. 1.8 now, as you can see in that timing tower.
Robin Bell's gone to the pits.
Closing, but I think it's going to be all for nothing. Robin Bales comes into the pits. Has he underfueled? That may have been an underfuel there for Bales. Well, he was so close to P4 as well. So close down. I have no idea what's happened there. The gap is 1.6. We'll just see Jacob there. No idea what happened there, but unfortunately for Robin, I think he may have had to take some extra fuel. Yeah, he does indeed. He's out, but Feligni holds on. He's just got 2 more corners, and he will get this race wound up. No mistakes at the end here. The gap is going to be 1.4. What could have happened if Stephen didn't have that mistake into Tamburello? But Matteo Feligni will take victory at Imola, and Stephen Brumfield will have to be content with P2. But what a drive to catch up there by Stephen.
Absolutely, really good stuff indeed. Great to see. And I mean, yeah, you cannot knock for trying. That was fantastic stuff. Fabian Savelli, again, running his own race for the last, pretty much the 2/3 of that race as well. I don't think he's going to be complaining, though, because P3, a very respectable result indeed. And then a little bit further down the field, we do have Jacob Money. Where is he? Just coming down through the final chicane, but he will take P4 with Robin Bales, unfortunately, with that small little mistake. He will, well, actually underfueling possibly, or getting another penalty, something along those lines. That's going to be unfortunate. And he will now be going into he will be finishing in P5. So again, that charge that he had, fair enough. Can't argue with the charge that he brought down, 15 seconds down to 0.7. It's a shame he had to come in, possibly for fuel or another penalty. And there we go, Jacob Money coming home in P4. Happy with that, as I'm sure he will be. And then Robin Bales a few seconds behind will be P5. And then Robert Isla a little bit further behind that as well. Ooh, actually, do you know what? I think, to be fair, Robin Bales has actually already finished technically because of how it all works in regards to the leaders passing Robin Bales. And then the last person actually to come across the line, where is Robert Isla? There he is indeed. Do you know what? We're going to bring up the finishing results in a few moments, but again, I think, Craig, again, not the grid that we normally want, but I mean, again, it wasn't short of action, I don't think, to be perfectly honest.
No, you've got to be honest. We had the 3-car battle that was going on pretty much for the first half of the race, and then of course we had that little mistake there from Bales, mistake from Tavelli, a mistake from Bales. and they just got a little bit held up. But the fight back from Brumfield, he'll be thinking, what if, just what if I had, didn't get held up at the start of the race, what could have happened? Would I have been able to catch up to Mattia? I was putting in fastest laps. Mattia was just dying to fall off at the end. He'll be asking that question, what if? But to be able to catch up like he did was fantastic. I mean, he overcame, 6 seconds at one stage? I think he overcame 6 seconds at one stage, and he finished 1.3 seconds behind. And it's nothing to be, it's nothing to be ashamed of, because just to even have that pace was fantastic to see. It's just a shame that it just happened like it did. And, it's that game of what if. I always say, if everything was as we once it, if would not exist.
Absolutely, very well put indeed. But here is your finishing results. So Mattia Feligni taking home the win. Stephen Brumfield, 1.3 seconds in the end in P2, with Fabian Savelli in P3. Jacob Money P4, with Robin Bales rounding out the top 5 after the unfortunate instance that he had. Robert Isla in P6, and then 23 laps down, unfortunately, was Gilbert Shue, and then Gilles Hubin 26 laps down as well. So it is a bit of a shame that unfortunately we didn't have all drivers finishing, but at the same time, the battles that we did have on track were absolutely fantastic. And I think, again, we're hopefully to be seeing everyone, all 15 drivers, out on track for the final round. I wonder if we're going to be able to have a chat with someone in a few moments. No one's in the waiting room at this current stage, but I wonder, we'll leave it another minute or so, and then if not, we will wrap up, and then we will be ready to sign off for round 3 here. Well, Craig, your first ever broadcast with Absolute Sim Racing. Naturally, we are going to be, as I said, we're going to be doing a lot more stuff in the very near future, which I am very excited for. I mean, what was that experience for you?
Well, it was fantastic. I must admit, it was great to dip my feet back in with coming back to something that I was a little bit familiar with the GT1s. It was a very nice thing. When I heard GT1s, I was like, get me in the car. Don't get me in the broadcast booth. Get me in the car. So it was great to come back and, again, it's Imola, it's GT1s. It is just a combination which you would go, really? And then you would do it and it would be, yeah, really. It's a really nice, really nice little combo there. So I think we might have Stephen ready to come in. I think that would be nice just to have a little chat with Stephen very shortly. I'm sure we'll get him in a moment, and then we got Mattia as well coming in. So we will get the winner and P2 just coming in. We'll talk right away. Let's talk right away to Mattia.
Actually, I'll tell you what, I believe we seem to be having some issues with Mattia's. He's not, for some reason, able to jump into the pit. So let's have a quick chat with Stephen Brumfield then, as we go through our P2, and hopefully we'll be able to see if we can get Mattia in a few seconds' time. There we go.
Hello.
Stephen, a P2 after what was really a very interesting first half to the race. It was quite good to see. It's quite good to see how you fought back early at the end of the race and just fell a little bit short. But I think it would be unfortunate and safe to say that I think getting held up by Robin at the start of the race may have cost you there.
Oh yes, exactly. You call it interesting. I call it frustrating. No, it was great fun. I mean, Mattia was very smart in the beginning. I have to give him that. He was giving Robin draft, as he was also on the left side of the start. And so he managed to get in front of me, and I tried my best to get past Robin, but couldn't make it. I didn't want to take him out, so I tried to calm myself. And in the end, he had a spin, so but it cost me 5 seconds, so I tried to catch that up, but it didn't work.
Yeah, we did see you pushing and putting in fastest lap after fastest lap. And you just fell a little bit short of a couple mistakes at the end. Were you surprised to see yourself get so close at the end?
Yes, I didn't expect to get so close to Mattia, definitely. He's a really fast driver. Imola is my favorite track, so I always thought that my pace would be competitive around here. Looks like I think I was the fastest guy on track most of the time, but Mattia was very consistent, and especially with the worn tires towards the end, he was just making less mistakes despite his slower pace. So I just needed 2 more laps, like I said, and I think once I had the draft, I was really in a position to attack, but time ran out.
Time ran out, and also the tires that you were mentioning, the tires just coming into play. But those battles at the start, unfortunately, Robin, yes, I've got to go back to them as well. What was going through your mind? 'Cause I saw a couple of times you were trying to set up with some cutbacks, some trying slingshots out of Tamburello at the start of the lap, and he was putting himself in the on the inside and forcing you. Were you trying? Yeah, were you unfortunately, were you trying to find the? I know it was hard to find a way, but were you trying to find just a way to throw him off his game or make a mistake? And if so, what were you looking for?
Yes, I was definitely trying to put maximum pressure on him because I knew it was critical to get past him as fast as possible, as Mattia was slipping away from my grasp with a second per lap. So I really tried everything in the book. There was maybe even a touch or two, which of course I didn't try to take him out. It was controlled aggression, I think, and Robin had a mistake in the I don't know what the corner name is, but in the tricky section.
Acqua Minerale, yeah.
Yes, Acqua Minerale, and that was really my godsend. I mean, without that, I probably it wouldn't even gotten close in the end. So, yeah. Mixed feelings about this race. I think I had the pace to win, but Mattia was smart at the start, and it doesn't only take pace to win, but also brains. So he used that perfectly today.
Yeah, and speaking of that, and speaking of Mattia is here as well. Mattia, it was a pretty quiet race for you once you got in the lead, but congratulations on the victory. Were you having a little bit of a panic at the end there, or when you made a small mistake and the gap started to close in the final 5 laps?
Yes, hello everybody. Steven, great pass behind me, and 5 laps to go. I take a new slowdown attack Minerali, and I lose 2 seconds, and last 5 lap is really hard.
I can guess that Imola is one of your favorite tracks.
Is not my favorite track, but last week, last 3-4 week, I race with GTA, and I take more confidence, and yes, Imola is now a good track for me.
And from Imola, of course, next week we go to Suzuka. Are you looking forward to Suzuka?
Yes, Suzuka I very good for me in GT, and I see good for next week. Steven, a great rival for me, and another race today. I lose a great rival today for Disconnect.
Yes.
And last week idem, and next see next in Suzuka, and see goodbye.
Yes, definitely. Very exciting competition with you this season. Really excited to see who will win next week. I think the winner will also win the championship. So it's gonna get down to the wire, and I will definitely have to practice for Suzuka, because Suzuka is, we'll see about that. I need some practice.
Well, I can't wait to see that, because with the pace we saw today, I can't wait to see what you two can deliver at Suzuka. It promises to be fantastic, especially being it is a historic track for the GT1. So I will let you go. Grazie, Matteo, and thank you, Stephen. We will let you go for the evening. Congratulations on your P1 and P2 respectively.
Thank you very much, guys, for the interview and for the commentary. And see you next time.
Yes, thank you. See you next week for another great race. See you next.
Bye bye.
All the best, lads, all the best, gentlemen. I believe that is it for the night.
It is indeed absolutely fantastic stuff. As ever, thank you very much to all of our drivers and all of the people watching the stream. Thank you very, very much indeed. It's always good fun to see people getting involved. And again, it's a small grid. I don't think that's actually a problem, to be fair. I'm sure we'd love a bigger grid, but the action that we've seen, imagine what it's going to be like in 3 or 4 seasons' time when we've got even more cars moving through this grid. But as you say, Greg, we are going to have to wrap up. Thank you again very much for jumping in with me for this race. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on board. And I look forward to catch up with you again very, very soon. But until next time, everyone, as always, we need to remember, take care and stay safe. And we will see you for the finale next week at Suzuka for the GT1 World Sprint Series. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, get involved as much as you can. And we will see you there.